Hello and welcome to the Morning Skate Podcast. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell. We're here to go through the Tuesday, January 23rd NHL Daily Fantasy Slate. DJ, was a long weekend, football and sadness, but we've made it. We're here to talk about a Tuesday 9-game slate. It's a decent week in the hockey streets with games every day for the week. So how you doing? And are you ready for Tuesday night?
Yeah, I feel like after some time to reflect, I'm not going to be as angry as I was last night. I had some truly horrific bad beats that really didn't help me. And I feel like just like the added group text, friends from home, friends from the area, just everybody being completely dejected, just kind of had this really gross feeling all day in the city of Buffalo. But I don't know, I'll move on. I'm a Browns fan, so I'm used to pain already, let alone pain this year, let alone, I guess I'm not a Bills fan. So losing the James Cook prop was probably one of the worst beats I've ever had in my life. Losing 6 rushing yards in the fourth quarter is tough. So how was your weekend?
Yeah, it was fine. I think I made out about even in hockey stuff. I thought I had a killer DraftKings team. I had Lamar, but it was a double stack, and the double stack did nothing with Lamar. So I was kind of tilted at the football. The Bills losing. It's just the Bills losing. They do it. It's
you remember my lineup. I had the nuts for like exactly 3 quarters into that Tampa game too, and then Mike Evans just absolutely buried me in it. Yeah, it was just it was a lot of tilting all weekend. I feel like everything, and like I had a couple parlays missed by one leg, and it's just I want to get right. I need to get right night Tuesday. So
I finished in like 15th in the big $15 in tennis, which was good enough to chop the top of like the high stakes tennis in the Sunday quarterfinals slate. So that was cool and a good way to repay myself for the football losses that I incurred. So just out here playing everything. We got Counter-Strike back, so I'm hoping for some run good here down the stretch as we approach the end of the hockey regular season. I mean, believe it or not, we're only a couple months away from like we're only a month away from best puck like playoffs. And then pretty soon after that. Yeah. And pretty soon after that, the run into, the Fantasy Hockey World Championship, and then the end of the regular season and the playoffs. So, it's all coming up here. But not before we go through a 9-game slate. So anything here you want to cover, or should we just get into the games?
Do you want to do the ad read first, or want me to read them off?
Yeah, let's just get the ad read out of the way. So as you know, this podcast is focusing on the DraftKings Daily Fantasy Slate. However, I would be remiss not to mention, if you are in a state where you can play Pick 6, they added NHL to that market today. So this is not a Pick 6 show, so you can find information about Pick 6 and the platform and whatnot. But do check it out. I think it's really soft. You can like correlate, full lines. Like I saw, you could do Keller, Cooley, Gunther, those sorts of things. Maybe that's not a perfect correlation, but you get the gist. It's not penalizing you for correlation. Maybe the field knows that, maybe the field doesn't. So that's an interesting wrinkle to add into your hockey gambling if you are so inclined. And also the DraftKings Sportsbook. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN, the Hockey Podcast Network, THPN. New customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-878-97777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. All right. So we do have 9 games up ahead of us here. Reminder, if you are listening to this on the podcast feed and you prefer YouTube, we were off YouTube last week, travel considerations, but we're back. We're back in studio. You can see both of us on YouTube here, and I have the little helper, the little the rainbow, the colors, the sheet, whatever you want to call it, to sort of help us walk through the slate. So just final plug for the YouTube. If you are so inclined to check us out over there, it's on DJ's YouTube channel. It's linked in the podcast description of this show. All right.
Okay. Yeah, we have. Want me to read the games off while you keep that up there, and then we'll. Yeah. So game number 1 is Dallas at Detroit. It is a 6.5 over under. Detroit at home is an underdog, minus 148 on Dallas. Ottawa returned Shane Pinto to the lineup. They looked pretty good. They go to Montreal. It is a 6.5. I think it's the second highest total on the slate. Second highest total on the slate. Ottawa minus 142 favorite on the road. Tampa at the Flyers. Don't know yet on Flyers have just had like random little injuries. Don't know yet on Tippett. It is a 6.5 plus money on that over 6.5. Basically a dead pick 'em. The Vegas Golden Knights at the New York Islanders in a game that I'm guessing no one's going to want to stack. Vegas on a back-to-back road. Yeah, got to be a road back-to-back. There's no way they're going from Vegas to the Long Island when they're already in New Jersey. Islanders, minor favorite, minus 136 over under. Washington is at Minnesota. Another game with a very low 6 total. Minnesota home favorites, minus 162. St. Louis at the Calgary Flames. It is a 6 over under again. A lot of 6s on this slate. The Flames are minus 162, so almost identical to the last game, just on the number almost. The Columbus Blue Jackets will not be favored on the road in Edmonton. That is our highest total, 7 over under, and a minus 380 on the surging Oilers. I think their streak is still alive, right? Did they lose?
Yep. Nope. Still going. 13.
Did they keep the streak alive? Yeah. Okay, they did. Right. Yeah. Buffalo is going out to Anaheim. Skinner looks like he'll be back in the lineup. Cousins is on the top power play, so kind of getting back to what they looked like last year. Out in Anaheim, Sabres are 162 favorites. You've heard that number a lot before. I don't know why Kings is addicted to minus 162. 6.5 over under. And finally, the Rangers playing the back-to-back San Jose Sharks minus 355, 6 over under. So a lot of 6s, a lot of favorites at minus 162. I mean, that's not terrible. But like a lot of similarity on this slate with the book odds, which is really I wanted to bring them up. Anything you want to say before we get to Dallas and Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, you can see on the sheet, there's basically 2 really good spots. It's Ottawa at Montreal and then Edmonton at Columbus. We've got the Rangers at San Jose, but the Rangers have kind of been in a bit of a slog. And then otherwise we've got some really poor matchups. And this is a league-wide trend. This is, we were talking about it in the Discord, on the season, the low danger chances are way up. The high danger chances are basically steady versus last year. So there's some weirdness going on as far as the natural stat trick tracking. I don't know if it's, a tracking related issue or whether it's, actually something changing around the league. But the totals are still pretty high. For instance, the Philly Tampa one sounds, super high. And their pace is just nothing's there. These numbers don't directly correlate. So 4.8 goals pace doesn't mean 6.5 is an auto under bet. But there's really not a ton of reason to think that Philly should ever be in a 6.5 total, especially if Owen Tippett remains out of the lineup. So it's just a little bit interesting. It's certainly seeming like the league is shuttering down a little bit as far as opportunities go. And we're seeing that come through on this slate where basically the entire league has a negative matchup besides the 3 spots I mentioned off the top. So I don't know really how far to push that angle. I'm not sure if every under is a good bet or whatever, but it's certainly something I'm thinking about as I'm thinking about this slate. So final note, if you are using the sort of updated version of this view, meaning on the video feed or in the Discord from I guess last night when you're listening to this. The right side is not accounting for injuries. This is just strictly basing it off of the DraftKings DSV. So do not, make sure you're checking any of the players on the right side. If they show up as like a really good option, one, they could be out of the lineup, and two, it's probably due to a low sample size on like some of these dudes. So just some disclaimers out there. But let's get things started with Dallas and Detroit. Anything you want to talk about off the top on the slate, or do you want to get into the first game?
No, we can get right into it. Yeah, I mean, Detroit I feel like they're a team that I just continue to think this team has got to be falling down the standings. They just haven't been playing very well, and they just find ways to win. They've been good. Dallas has also been pretty good. I'm not surprised to see this game as a 6.5, just because of how these teams have been efficient scoring, but the pace doesn't really feel like it's going to be there. So like if you're going to, I do think in those situations where you're saying, if you think there's going to be goal scoring, like it's probably a situation of correlation only. And I think I'm only going through Dallas personally, because I think that's the only way volume's going to come. So I'm not entirely enticed by this game, but I think, again, it's only through Dallas, and mainly because I just think that the Lion well is going to snap. And I know right now in Detroit, the last thing anyone wants to hear is that Lion isn't going to play well. But
yeah, I mean, it is fairly interesting that like Dylan Larkin has been a very productive player, and I would expect him to eat, the Hintz, Robertson, Johnston line as far as the matchup is concerned. They've not been very good as a line. Like, they're getting out chanced, they're getting out shot. I mean, they're giving up tons of goals against. Yeah. So like they're producing, but they're giving a lot up the other way. And any line of Lucas Raymond and David Perron, like it kind of makes sense. So I'm kind of interested in Dallas 1 as a result. I mean, they're still so cheap.
They smashed. They absolutely smashed the Islanders as far as the Corsi numbers go. Mm-hmm. Like I don't remember the exact number, but I know I'm looking at Hockey Biz right now, and it was just they had no one to match up, and they were putting Peugeot out there, the Romanov unit, and it just didn't matter. So I do agree, like that's where I go as well through Robertson and Hintz, or I'm not touching this game at all.
Yeah. So
and obvious, and Johnson. Sorry.
Yeah, and there's some
reason. Are you back on Harley?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Miro Heiskanen could be back. They're like any day now is when he is when he will return. So I'm sort of expecting Miro to return. We don't have any confirmation of that, however. So if he remains out, I'm totally fine going back to the Harley well. But if he's in, if Miro's in, then obviously that sort of hurts Hartley. I do think we need to consider Ryan Suter. He's 2,700, still playing a bunch of minutes, doing next to nothing, but 2,700 is just kind of silly. And then Nils Lundqvist exists to troll me, I think, because I played that dude for like 2 weeks earlier this year, and he did nothing, and now he's in the exact same role and doing stuff. So I don't know. I'm mostly interested in the top line. I still don't think Detroit's interesting at all. Like the guys who are producing are expensive, and really they're not playing Daniel Sprong enough, and he's still producing, getting 10 minutes a night, but I just don't think you can go there on a 9-game slate, and that would be a death of me because he'll score a goal and have the shot bonus every night until the end of time. But as soon as he clicks that 14-minute mark, I'm in, and he won't do shit that night. So it is what
11 minutes last game, and 11 minutes last game, and he was, I think he had 6 shots on goal, and a goal is just, I don't understand how you don't play that guy more. They did get Wallman back in the fold. He was not on either power play unit. He'd kind of been flirting around in the past, but they kept Seider and Gossespierre on their respective units. So I think that kind of nukes the entire deep core. Like, any interest at all in Mo Seider, or is it just too big of a slate to go like Seider, DeBrincat, and garbage? Because I don't think anyone's going to play them. Like they're not that cheap, and they've been bad. So I think, is it just like being contrarian to be contrarian? I guess kind of what I'm hinting at, but
I kind of it kind of feels unnecessary. So the thing that you talked about earlier in the season, or like before the season, was like, okay, Mo Seider has the possibility to be Jacob Trouba with power play time. And basically, one, he's not Jacob Trouba. Like, Trouba's got better rates in every regard on the year. And he's not even getting the mega minutes that you would expect from him either, which part of that comes because he's not being featured in a power play role. But like, I don't know. I would want to see like regularly playing 27 minutes before I'm considering Mo Seider on a kind of, in a garbage game at his salary. Yeah. Like, he's just not doing much of anything. So I'm not that interested. Yeah. And
anything else?
Really no.
We can move over. Ottawa's kind of back. I mean, they really outplayed the Flyers. Goaltending woes continue to be a bit of a problem for them, but they outscored those problems and they win 5-3. But I was watching some of that game and it just seemed like all three lines with Pinto back in the fold were cooking. Giroux, Norris, the Chucks, Stützle, Batherson, Gregg, Joseph, Pinto, and Tarasenko. And it is a little bit sad. Not that I think Pinto, makes up the massive gap that they right now have in the standings and gets them all the way back in the fold. But you do have to just say, man, this team does look really good. That they also had 4 defensemen just basically rolling. Sanderson, Zub, Shabbat, and Chychrun all over 22 minutes. Sanderson with 28. It is certainly a situation where we're seeing some very, very big minutes for a lot of guys and a lot of options to correlate and have success. So you're pulling this up. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, no, I'm just showing some Shane Pinto numbers from last game where he had 4 shot attempts. He had a primary assist. So that's always going to show out well in looking at, his early returns. The main thing, the main reason he's of interest is he is still 2,500 on the slate. Why? Yep. I don't know. But, so he's going to be in the mix. I suppose that, he's going to be sufficiently owned. Like, you're not sneaking that by anyone. But yeah, I think he's a great play. Like, there's really nothing that says, oh, he's super rusty. Matchups stellar. So maybe that makes, Vladimir Tarasenko and Matthew Joseph a bit overowned as a result. But Tarasenko's on the power play with him. I think if I were doing this, I would do something like Pinto Shabbat or Pinto Chychrun just to try and get a little different. Noteworthy that Jake Sanderson's back on the top unit in place of Shabbat. Who knows if that's here to stay? They didn't score or anything on the power play last game, so that could change. But for now, Pinto with Shabbat and or Chychrun, you could double D-stack it too if you wanted to. That's the clear value way to go. But there's really nobody in this game on either side, honestly, that I would call you an idiot for considering. I just wanted to point out that, obviously Brady Tkachuk's been playing very well, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere comes Sean Monahan, 4,200. He actually makes his way into the top, expected fantasy point guys on this slate. And that's, it's always gross to consider, but it's there, and there's some reason to believe that it's somewhat sustainable because Joshua Roy did not get sent back down, right? I don't know if it's Wah or Roy, in all honesty.
I'm almost positive it's Wah, and okay. I don't remember seeing that.
So when Wah got called up, he's got slotted into the Monahan line. Not saying this is why he's doing well, but anytime you can inject a talented prospect onto a line, and all of a sudden you see the guy who's power play 1 correlated, has a history of production, it's at least something I think you should consider. Not necessarily that Wah's a great play at 2,900, but Monahan at 4,200 is a really fabulous one-off. Ownership's going to go the other way. Clearly, if Shane Pinto's back and he's a little rusty, well, maybe that's rusty defensively or something like that. And you say, oh, well, the Montreal middle 6 just takes advantage of some of that rust. And I could see that being a viable bull case. But yeah, Sean Monahan, fairly interesting. I don't think I'm spending up for the Cole Caulfields of the world on this slate. It's just, it's a fine salary, but it's just a little bit too much for me. So Anything else you want to cover before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I always pull up the last 5 games, take for all the teams on the slate. Number 2 on the slate is an Ottawa Senator in I Corsi 4 per game. Do you have a guess?
Oh boy, Brady Kachuk.
That's 6th on the slate. So there's someone ahead of him on Ottawa.
Well, you got to tell
I'll
me.
give you one more guess. He's a defenseman, Jacob Sanderson, 7.6 attempts per game over the last 5. He's just been unbelievable. I mean, you look at the game logs, and it's probably not going to become as much of a surprise. I know he had 7 last game, double bonus. It's coming, especially the way he's playing right now. And I think Artem Zub is opening him up a bit more offensively on 5-on-5. But you get that power play role. I think that him, Brady, and Norris and Giroux. I'm leaving out Giroux, and I don't mean to, because Giroux is on that first power play as well at 5,400. Like, I think it's going to be chalky, but that's very, very, very enticing to me. But we can move on. You already mentioned the guys on Montreal. I don't need to add anything else. Slavkovsky's been good. We say it every slate. We can move over to Tampa and the Flyers.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, this game is a 6.5. It's a somewhat even matchup based on the Vegas odds. So I would not expect that means, Tampa's not going to have this massive team total or anything. But 6.5 is still something that I'm like, yeah, that's a shade high, don't you think? So I don't know where I would really look to in this game. Like, Nikita Kucherov is here. He remains 9,900. He's just simply not putting up the sort of shot volume that warrants the price tag. Like, of course, anytime he, inches past the 5 shots and 3 assists mark, like, he's going to have a good fantasy night. But honestly, that does not put you away. 9,900, like, that just hurts your lineup so much that I don't really think that there's that much risk in a Kucherov fade. And if you're not playing the Tampa top line here, like, what are you doing? I think Philly's just worse without Owen Tippett. Like, they're probably just as fine defensively. They're fine. So, like, Tampa's not in a great spot. So what do you think? Are you going to buy in on this, like, I don't know, like this Tampa top line? Braden Point's been doing stuff. Victor Hedman had an explosion game last time out. Like, anything here for you?
I think, I mean, it's Victor Hedman. Like, I think if you're playing Tampa, it comes through him right now. He is shooting a ton. He's on the ice, it feels like, every shift. I just think if you're assuming they get there in what I don't believe will be unbelievable ownership, with the prices, you've already stated it, it comes through Hedman and Kucherov. So you need a metric ton from Kucherov to get there. And I just think Hedman's coming along for the ride for sure. So, yeah, I'm going to fade it myself, I think. I'm not really even looking that close at the other side. Like, Konechny's been great, but I just don't know if I think Konechny has the same explosive upside at 6,900 without Tippett on his line, because like Tippett can score from anywhere, and you kind of need a couple of assists to probably come along with Konechny to get him over the. He's got to get 3 points to get there. Break the slate for you. Like, even with his volume, has been good. So yeah, I think this is going to be a stay away from me. I respect Couturier a ton. I think he can definitely be a thorn in the the first line for Tampa, and they're going to block shots all night. They just eat pucks, and you're going to be angry, and I don't want to be angry. So I'm going to fade it. But it is a good revenge situation for the city of Philadelphia against Tampa Bay. So I really hope they put that on their back for Jalen Hurts.
That is true. You got to support him.
I'm sure that's what they're doing.
Yeah, Philly sent down Bobby Brink. They called up Lixell. Like, I don't know. There's really we don't have actual lines though. Yeah, I'm just checking. So we don't really know what they're going to look like with or without Owen Tippett. Like you said, they got plastered by Ottawa, and the lines were already a mess then. I'm keeping an eye on Frost Forrester, like that little duo. They were power play correlated. Morgan Frost has been playing really well. He elicited praise out of Torts, which, if you've been following the saga, is not something that we often hear from Torts. He genuinely hates the guy's guts, I'm pretty sure. So to hear him say that Frost was playing pretty well, like, the tag's getting a bit higher, but if Konechny's on the line with Forrester 3,600 and Frost 3,800, I think there's good enough reason to just sort of go at them and, MME type stuff. Defensively, Jamie Drysdale just isn't getting the run. It's Igor Zamula. If you can chase these Igor points if you want,
yeah,
but, not every day.
On your shoes, but
yeah, not every day are you going to get the puck and all 11 people on the ice, refs included. Other people don't know where the puck is, and that's literally how Zamula got his goal. Touched the puck before some power play goals, goal and an assist. I thought no,
he had 2 goals and an assist. He had 2 goals and 1 assist. Okay. I'm promising you that. Okay. I will guarantee it. He scored the first 2.
Sure.
You think I'd lie?
Good for him. Good for him. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not doing it. I don't.
15 minutes of time on ice. Yeah. 7.
I don't like this game. It's just, I don't know. So let's just move over to Vegas and the Islanders. I don't. Just if you want to play 7,800 Ilya Sorokin under Patrick Waugh and just get your bonus, get your win, go for it. I'm not going there. Vegas is on a back-to-back. This is going to be a chalky spot, I believe. I don't really want to play Sorokin. So that's that. Anything else here interest you offensively?
I mean, no, but I think if, gun to head, I could at least take a look at the Islanders. I mean, they, as you just pointed out, they really weren't very good in that 3-2 overtime win against Dallas, giving up like 45 shots. It was maybe 42. I'm not sure on the exact number. Not great. But the one thing I will say on the respect of what did Patrick Waugh do, and 32 Thoughts also talked about this. Some guys on the Islanders beat were saying that like Horvat and Barzal were out there a ton, like a lot more than maybe you'd think. And there's 9 minutes for that fourth line. They're not rolling forward anymore. They didn't get a single power play. And they had Horvat, Barzal, Lee rolling. So I don't hate it. I'm not saying I'm playing it either. Like, it's just the pricing was always a problem because the role kind of didn't feel as solid as I needed it to be. You kind of go through the game logs and it just kind of feels like Horvat, except for the past 5, was always around that 17, 18-minute mark. I think he's in for much more of the 22, 23-minute games. Not a great matchup, not the worst matchup. I'm going to probably not have it, but I do think I'm giving a bigger eye on the Islanders going forward.
Yeah, I do like that context. The fact that the power play just didn't get any ice time, because I look, as soon as you said that, I'm like, look, this idiot, like Horvat only played 20 minutes. But like you said, it was no power play time. So if they're getting that sort of 5-on-5 run, that clearly would concentrate on, Horvat, Barzal.
The other note was that like they had started almost every overtime with like Peugeot and a bunch of those random guys like win faceoffs, and Waugh was like, no, we're playing our best players. Like Horvat, go, Barzal, go. And I love it. Yes, like bring him in. Let's go. So it's
genius. Only Patrick Waugh could think of such a thing, right? So
it's just unbelievable to think. What if we play our best players right now? We score. Cool. Yeah, no.
The Lane Lambert thing was just so stupid to begin with. It was like, hey, let's take all the positive qualities of Barry Trotz and get rid of them. But here's Barry Trotz. And it was just like, what? Like, what was what would you say his plan was? Like, I just don't know how he even made it through the interview. Because he was literally like, yeah, want to shiv this guy, get him out of here. Sure, I can do that, but not the good stuff. Just the shitty things that Trotz did. And just, that's what he did.
Who's their general manager?
Yeah. I mean,
who's the Islanders general? It's like, I mean, come on. Like, you're going to tell me Lou Lamoriello's not going to do some stupid nonsense? Like, of course he did. And now he's like, what other stupid nonsense could I do? But this one we like for fantasy. Like, I don't know Patrick Waugh at all, but like he went out and got the guy that I think is actually going to put out the good players. So, okay, I'm in. Let's keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and let's see. When did they tie the game last time out? Okay, so they tied the game 2-2 with 15 minutes left in the game. Maybe 3 minutes later, they would have pulled their goalie. So we can still play that in narrative too on the Vegas side, which I suppose we should talk about Vegas or anything other than just reminiscing about these two teams or about this game. But Vegas looks to be rolling out. Well, actually, we know they're rolling out to start. Nick Waugh with Marchessault and Barbashev, and then Stevenson, Dorofeev, and Stone in their top 6. So I don't know. There's some reason to think Nick Waugh's a good player. He's probably too cheap at 3,500. He's played up in the lineup before. He's always been a player we kind of like. Jonathan Marchessault is shooting a bunch. It makes sense with Eichel out that he would step up a bit and score goals because, who else do they have to do that besides Mark Stone randomly? I don't know. So I guess if you want to play leverage off of some chalk, you get a very clear D-man in Alec Martinez, who's just too cheap for the role he has, where he's playing power play 1. He's about as instant a blocks bonus as you're going to get. And, Noah Dobson loves to fire shots from the blue line. So, there's just a ton of poo flingers, as we call them, on the blue line with the Islanders. So I like getting Alec Martinez in a Vegas stack. Which line you choose, I don't know. I guess it's the Marchessault Waugh line for me. But, I'm considering Martinez as a one-off play, too. I think he's that good of a play that I don't really care about back-to-back or anything for him. He's out there to step in front of 5 shots and maybe pick up a power play assist. So anything more substantial than that, or should we move on?
No, you said it all. Martinez, we talked about it on Saturday. Wait, not this Saturday. We talked about it on last Slate. Yeah, it was last podcast.
Yeah,
same points.
Yep.
Washington and Minnesota. You ready?
I am. So
yeah, I was gonna start with Washington, but you know what? You go first. You talk about.
I figured out how to do the thing where I share the screen, but I don't stop sharing the screen, but I change the camera so it shows up and whatever else. So anyway, Washington. Washington, Minnesota. Minnesota got absolutely curb stomped by Carolina. Didn't matter because Carolina lost because that's what they do when they get 50 shots. It turns out, they're just chucking a bunch of low danger stuff on goal. And Gustafson played very well. So the very classic superstar doing superstar things with Kaprizov does not mean that their offense is fixed necessarily, but Kaprizov certainly freaking helps. So, while it's not a jam him in spot, I don't think Kaprizov is very much in play at 8,300. I'm curious to see where ownership comes in on him. They're back at home. His line mates are pretty expensive. So if you told me that Washington ended up getting more ownership than Minnesota, I would honestly not be that surprised given the way TJ Oshie is still 4K and he's been picking up ownership as of late. So I'm somewhat torn. I want to like Minnesota. I want to just bet on them because, clearly they have talented players. They are in a better matchup than Washington, and I just think the field might not play into that. But if you were to play Minnesota, DJ, how are you doing it? Are you playing our Lord and Savior, Brock Faber?
Oh, I mean, man, he's getting so much run. Brodin was his partner at 5-on-5, and they looked really, really good together. He continued to be the power play 1 guy, which isn't that surprising. 27 minutes for Brock Faber. He's still sub 5K. And I was kind of saying before, as opposed to you, I kind of felt like he was a condition of sacking around Kaprizov. That would have paid off against the Florida Panthers. It would have been, definitely got there enough against Carolina. If you're going to continue to get away with this forever, I don't know. I mean, probably not. This is a good matchup, though. And I think, again, if you're going with, I wouldn't even say you're wrong to do any of the Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Boldly, Eriksson Ek situation. That was the full power play now with Faber. I could be convinced to go with that second line as well, just to be a little bit more contrarian. And I don't think it's still really expensive is why it's contrarian. It's not contrarian because it's not good. It's contrarian because people aren't paying 7,300 for Eriksson Ek, and I don't really blame them. But the guy's been unbelievable. So again, I definitely get it. I'm not sure if Minnesota is going to make it in for me or not, just because of the pricing. But I definitely like it more than I like Washington because I do think they'll be very chalky, or at least a decent bit chalky because of the price.
Yeah, I mean that's Yeah, I don't think I need to recap the TJ Oshie stuff. We talked about him last week. His underlyings have still kept up over, a few games now. I think he's at 6 in his last 10, so he's making the list and everything. And the role, you can't really argue with it. It's more of just like, I don't really understand why I would attack Minnesota in this matchup. Like, I get it. Their penalty kill was bad like 4 months ago. It's not as bad anymore, and their season-long numbers are going to reflect the fact that it was like historically awful for a month there. And I think I just want to play Ovi if I'm playing anyone here, like 6K. Like, yeah, it's really sad, but the dude's like, I mean, he just broke off like a 7-game point streak or something like that, where he had like 9 points over the stretch.
Yeah.
He just isn't scoring. Like, it's just, I don't know. I literally don't know anymore, because I watch him and it doesn't look like he's awful. Like, I mean, he looks the same as not dominant Ovi from my childhood, but like good Ovi from last year, where he's getting in position, he's taking shots, he's doing the thing where he fakes the slap shot, the goalie goes crazy, he just passes right out front to a guy like TJ Oshie to tap it in. He's just not scoring, and like that's just not Ovi, and so it's really befuddling. But he's $6,000 in, again, a great power play spot. So like, if you're gonna do Oshie, I think you just gotta play Ovi as well. And I don't think people will do that. I don't know that I can do it, but that's certainly the way I'm leaning in this game.
Yeah, I mean, in his past 2 games since returning, he's realizing like 40% of his actual fantasy. Like, he's expected to get 12.6 and he got 6.9, which would be nice. Only it's like, it's like 42% or something of like, no, wait. He's missing out on like an additional 40-ish% of his fantasy points is what I meant to say. And like, that's insane for him. Like, I know that age and whatnot, but like, you think about who Ovechkin is. He's shooting 7.5 attempts per game over the last 2. It's only 2 games, but still, that's a lot of freaking attempts. At 15, it's like, how has it done what it did though? Because the shot doesn't. I don't think it just is that much softer. I don't know. I'm not the goaltender. It still looks pretty hard. So I absolutely agree. And I think if you're going Washington and you're just punting it off with whoever, be my guest. I would like to see, obviously, what the lineup is, because they were in a blender against St. Louis as they lost 3-0. I don't expect it to stay the same. With that being said, Karlsson and Ovechkin are still a pretty good stack, in my opinion, but I don't like the matchup at all. I absolutely hate the matchup. I might sit this one out, but that's the only way I'd go on Washington. Like, go for the win. Don't sit here and pray that you get an Oshie garbage goal.
Yeah, always on Connor McMichael watch as far as where he slots in the lineup at 3,100. If he's with Ovi, I would be very convinced. Just a player I want to be first on. Come hell or high water. Clearly, Kuznetsov is being banished to the Shadow Realm. He started last game on the 4th line. Still played 17 minutes. So I don't know. But it's like, just try McMichael with Ovi for some period of time and just let's see what happens, please. Like, I'm so sick of watching Kuznetsov get dicked around the lineup when it's just unnecessary. Like, I don't know. Like, we know who Kuznetsov is at this point. Like, nobody's pretending he's going to change. But that's how Carberry seems to be playing it. So I say you just cut bait and move on to Strome McMichael in your top 6. But we're not the coaches. So let's go over to St. Louis and Calgary.
Yeah. It is funny. This is like, there's a 9-game slate, and I feel like there's been one spot I truly loved. And you might be thinking, well, when are we getting to the good spots? And they kind of all come right now, right into your face. And this one isn't even the best, and there's only 3 games left after it. But I kind of sneaky like this game. Like, I think this is the one that, like, you're going to get away with not much ownership and like, might actually be pretty good. So of all the games where I think you could actually punt and find success, this is where I'm leaning. So I hate to, I guess, steal all the thunder, or whatever. But yeah, I could be signed up here. A guy like Jake Neighbors, even not on the top line, still on the top power play. I don't know. Like, these are punts that I'm kind of more going towards, just, in a vacuum. And then on the other side of things, we'll get to it. But this St. Louis one is good. If it stays Buchnevich, Thomas, and Kyrou, they were all power play correlated again with Falk, not this garbage with Porrieko. So I like this iteration of the Blues just fine. And I'm never afraid to attack them. So again, I wanted to at least give a shout to say the Blues have been, formidable enough. Anything on the Blues first, or do you want to get over to what again, I think is a lot of value over on the Flames?
No, I mean, I like your ambition. I think that's a strong take. Clearly not a fabulous spot, but on a slate without many of those. I like your neighbors. I like your neighbors take.
Yeah, well, it's hard to be like, oh, I like Edmonton and the Rangers, and it's like, oh, how the hell are you putting that together? Oh, and Ottawa, perfect.
Yeah,
like
sure.
You're going to have to concede somewhere, and I think that this is a spot that people just aren't going to do. And again, I am, I just talked about the Blues for the first time being kind in a while, but I really, really do like the Flame side of this. The problem with it is the one piece that you covet the most is probably one of these 6K plus defensemen in Uyghur and Rasmus Anderson. But besides that, which again, I think is a really strong play, either of them, I could be convinced on really any of this stuff. Coronado was back. He played 14 minutes in power play too with Kadri and Zari. So not unbelievable, but I assume he's minimum, right?
He is 2,600.
Wow. 2,600. So again, there's another punt, a guy that we were really high on at the start of the year, a guy that definitely has finishing ability and isn't completely buried right now. Him and Zari are two good young prospects on the same power play. For example, like that to me feels totally justifiable, especially if you are trying to get in the McDavids of the world. The top line isn't priced out of consideration with Lindholm, Sharangovich, and Huberdeau, but again, it's kind of like that, or you're kind of punting it off, in my opinion. And while Huberdeau, Sharangovich, and Lindholm were all power play correlated with Uyghur and Kadri, I could be convinced to actually just completely punt here. So any thoughts, again, and I did want to make that point maybe a little clearer, that it was Huberdeau on that top power play with all the others. But is there anything here you really like? I mean, could you, again, go like Kadri, Coronado, even without the power play?
For sure. I think St. Louis is pretty easy. You just take either the top line or you take a neighbor's Falk or some combination of those 5 players. I'm not really interested in much else. I think the Kadri line is interesting here. I would expect the Thomas line to be deployed against Lindholm and Sharangovich. So yeah, you can go to the Backlund Coleman duo and mix in Mangiapane if you really want. I just, I like more fun players. Yeah, I like losing. And we know that the middle 6 in St. Louis is much softer defensively than their top line. So I think if I were to pick a line, it would be Kadri. You get the correlated Zari and Coronado. And we get a free falling price tags. We get 2 free falling price tags in Uyghur and Anderson. And, both those guys are, like you said, just they're volume monsters. They're blocks candidates. They're shots candidates. They're technically 3-point candidates as well in the right environment. So, this game does stand out as a pretty reasonable spot to target. Just for some context, Rasmus Anderson, 6,200 on this slate. 10 days ago against Arizona, he was 7K. So this is just what happens. They go up in price, they get less owned, and they get price down. Just don't miss that, because these were obviously guys you could rule out when they were $1,000 more. But now that they're falling price tag wise, it's not like they're any different of plays. So I like this spot. Calgary's at home, so slight lean toward the Calgary side, but certainly agree with everything you said about this game being somewhat sneaky and somewhat attractive. So let's get over to Columbus and Edmonton here. Edmonton is clearly they are clearly in the best spot. McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl's somewhat back. They're just they're just going. I don't really know. I don't need to tell you that Edmonton is playing very well. Columbus did welcome back Boone Jenner into their lineup. They lost 4-1 to New Jersey, which is hard to do these days. So, I'm not sure how much it really matters, but it is at least noteworthy. Before we talk about Edmonton, any interest in Columbus here?
I really do. I mean, this Edmonton team, it really is an amazing defensive run as well, that I just think it's overlooked. And the goaltending has just figured it out enough. Like, it's not like they needed, world beating goaltending, but when you, again, 2.2 expected against Calgary, you only let in 1. It's like, that looks unbelievable. And it's just pretty good. It's really good. So, and like, that's what they're getting right now. It's kind of a combination of everything. And just with that, McDavid is lifting Hyman to a place where I almost feel like it's a condition for me. And I know 8,400 for Zach Hyman sucks to pay, but like, I find it like, I don't know. I guess you could convince me not to put them together and maybe move forward with just McDavid, but I think the slate gets, shattered to smithereens with a McDavid, 50 something burger, and Hyman's probably just completely coming along for the ride, just with how much he is shooting on that line right now. So I'm just, there's nothing negative to say about Edmonton here other than they're going to be really chalky. Like, I think that there's not a doubt in my mind that McDavid is the highest owned player by a pretty substantial margin. Like, who else are you really paying for here? And there's plenty of punts to get you there. And we haven't even gotten to all of them yet. There's more to come. So the only negative is ownership. And is there any way you'd get around that ownership the one way I think I would like to do it is just by playing McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman, moving on, because you're just not getting anyone else, frankly. Like, I guess you could maybe try to convince yourself to play Warren Fogle, but I believe even he has come up in price a decent little bit. We have 4,400 now. Like, but is there any other way? Like, again, that's my idea for one idea, but like, is there anything you're thinking of to get different and still stack?
I think it's still just Evander Kane, Draisaitl, Fogle. Like, I don't really, I don't really have much else creative. Like, Dylan Holloway played last game, but he played 9 minutes, so it's just more of the same bullshit. I don't really think you can take a chance on anything like that. Someone interesting, they signed Corey Perry, but
yep.
I mean, Zach Hyman is playing the role of Zach Cassian already, so there's really no chance that that Corey Perry is of note for any sort of real slate. If he does play,
yeah,
they waived Ernie, so I expect him to play. But
yeah, everyone thought they were going to waive Holloway, and thank God they didn't, because I would have just been sad for no reason. But yeah, I would assume he's going to go where Fogle is, unfortunately, though. But I don't know that. It just seems like that could have been.
I would be shocked. Wait, what?
Yeah.
You really think he's going to be on the second line?
No, you're probably right, actually.
Okay.
Third line.
I have not seen lines, so yeah.
No,
that's exactly what I'm thinking.
You're probably right. I just feel like there's some garbage afoot. That I'm expecting it. I expect the worst case scenario at all times. Yeah. So,
well, fortunately, they've won 13 games in a row, so you got to change things up by signing Corey Perry. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about Edmonton. You did transition us away from Columbus. I did just want to mention that we did get a practice from them. Zach Werenski's very close, but will not play on Tuesday, so be on the lookout for him on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever they play next. And that the top line was Fantilli, Jenner, Roslovic. Obviously, we like Adam Fantilli around these parts. If he's playing with Boone Jenner, that's kind of interesting. But 4,900, just you can't really do it except for like a late slate or something. And then keep an eye on Adam Boqvist, 3,500.
Yep, that was good.
If he plays, he's a great play, but he's questionable due to illness.
Yeah, he is just blocking shots out of necessity because they're getting just caved in, and he's out there all the time. We can move over to Buffalo and Anaheim. As I mentioned, the top power play for Buffalo looks like it's back to Skinner, Tuck, Cage, Cousins, and Rasmus Dahlin. So you could, I do think that opens up a little bit even more for Dylan Cousins, who's been pretty hit or miss and mainly miss all season long. But like as of late, there's been plenty of games in the recent 10 to get you at least feeling excited about what could happen. I could consider it here. Is it completely one-off? No, because his line mates aren't inherently terrible. It was Peterka Quinn. I'm almost positive. I retweeted it. I'm pretty sure it's Peterka Quinn. But yeah, any thoughts on the Sabres as they, again, we haven't gotten 100% confirmation on Skinner, but the fact he was with line one, power play one in practice makes me feel like it's a formality that he's returning to the lineup, which is good news for a team that is going to miss the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, this seems like some god awful chalk. I don't know how you price the Sabres at -165 against anyone. The Ducks are, I don't know, they're not good, but like, I mean, yes, they just lost to San Jose, but like Buffalo is just bad too. So they're all really expensive now. You know, Tage Thompson is up at 7,800. This is not 6,800 Tage or whatever we had like a week ago. So like they're getting more expensive. Skinner's interesting as a one-off just because he has been like truly transcendent of the situation. Before he got hurt, he was on like one hell of a run. So like that's really the only thing I could squint in, like say, oh yeah, I would do that. Maybe like Cousins or Dahlin, like sure, but you're just paying a lot for the right to play Buffalo Sabres on a slate where Edmonton is facing off with Columbus at home. Like I don't know. I don't get it. So if people do it, I'm happy to let them do it. And, Tage can score a hat trick. Tage can score 4 goals. We've seen him score 5. So, like, I'll just take my L if that happens. But
sure. I mean, again, I like Ottawa. I like Ottawa one more than Buffalo one. So it's going to be hard for me to find it. It was Cousins, Quinn, Greenway, and then Benson, Middlestat, Baturka. So like a full power play 2 stack line 2 with whatever. We don't need to get into all that nonsense, but nothing unbelievable stand out as far as anything else on Buffalo. Just again, there's some changes there, and I think Dylan Cousins could be overlooked just because I do think Buffalo one will be somewhat chalky, and I could just go with the Cousins one off and feel okay about it because that kind of actually feels like a little bit of leverage. I know like power play wise, if he gets there on the power play, it's really not a ton of leverage, but if Cousins is scoring at 5-on-5, it's, probably coming at the cost of Tage not getting there unless they absolutely rout them. So Anaheim, they've dealt with a lot of injuries as of late. Their pricing is coming down to what feels more reasonable, but I'm not sure if there's anything that's like clear stand above the rest like that. That's the easy stack. I mean, they got absolutely throttled by the Rangers with 1.5 expected goals. Really, no one on their team looked all that dangerous other than Adam Henrique. For some reason, he scored a couple. And that line with Carlson and Terry got the most run. So I guess that is a thing. It's not that expensive, but that's kind of like the note. And it just doesn't get me that excited.
Yep. And after scoring that, he is 4,500. Like, I don't know. You can go there. Clearly this is a like, oh yeah, Leo Carlson actually has really good like underlyings. He drives play. Yeah. He's everything to this team, but they can't figure out how to put him on the power play. I don't know. Like, okay, sure, put him with Jackson Lacombe, Sam Carrick on the power play. Like, it just doesn't seem hard to play Cam Fowler with Vetrano, Terry, McTavish, Carlson, but like, I guess it is. So here we are.
It's unfathomable. It is legitimately a war crime that it's Terry, McTavish, Carlson, and Carrick and Lacombe on the second power play. Like, what is happening over there? That is against my beliefs. Like, what are you doing? But does that make Silfverberg like a punt on the first power play? Like, in theory, I mean, is it like maybe we take a look at a guy like him?
I've played that dude for
getting as much run as Mason McTavish. Like,
yes, I mean, all credit to me. I played Silfverberg on the team I won the Fantasy Hockey World Championship ticket with, so like it paid off. But he hasn't done shit with the role. But he remains on top of the team in shots per 60 for guys not named Frank Vetrano. So like, yeah, Silfverberg minimum salary. I think you got to consider him. But he's not playing with McTavish anymore, which was why I played him there the first time. But he's not playing on the fourth line, which is really important because Ross Johnston is not going to get ice time. So if Silfverberg is on the third line, like he's totally in play as a punt on your McDavid type teams. The Buffalo matchup is not one I'm afraid of whatsoever. So. Yeah, I like Silfverberg, but is this the slate he's finally going to hit? I don't know. So I guess just Carlson, Terry, Henrique, they're going to get minutes. They're not power play correlated, but maybe you can play Cam Fowler with it and just sort of hope that they score 4 and somehow split it up between them to all get there. Salaries make sense. It's doable. And Troy Terry has been very, very good since, over the last 10, but especially since Carlson returned to the lineup. So, yeah, there you go.
Rangers
one more
and San
game.
Jose to finish it off.
Indeed. And the Sharks welcome back Logan Couture. Couture had a decent night for himself. I think he had he had one primary assist, and that's it. So where the hell?
0 shots.
He didn't have any shots. So where are these expected fantasy points coming from? I wonder.
I noticed that as well, but I think he had some attempts. I think the Rangers are playing a back-to-back Sharks team. It's not that much to overthink, in my opinion, where if you're playing the Rangers, I think you just go all the way in. I mean, this is a team that is absolutely trying their best to win every game. It's not like they're, not putting it all out there. Did Kako only played 8 minutes last game? So I don't really know why that happened. I don't see any injury designation or anything of that nature. But in a 5-2 win, he only played 8 minutes. I think I'm just going to keep an eye out for what's going on. And just go with the top guys, like go through the first power play. Their power play is one of the best in the league. And I think with McDavid and all that nonsense, like Panarin might not get the ownership.
Asked about it after the game.
Down and
asked about it after the game. Apparently, Kako got 2 shifts in the second period, which was what attributed to his time on ice. And the coach just said it was due to the rotation and the way it went. So special teams and whatever else. So, it's a little bit, you don't like to see that whatsoever, but it doesn't seem like there's anything nefarious there with respect to Kako. He checks in at 3K. So, there you go. If you want it, you have it. But there's a lot of 3K dudes in this game who just kind of suck. You know, Mike Hoffman. I think Eklund got moved down to the third line. Are they on a back-to-back?
They had practice.
They are.
Yeah,
they play
the Kings.
Yeah.
But they did run lines today while we're recording it. So hold on. It was all different. It was
Eklund third line.
In power play. Okay. Yeah, you're looking at it. With Strum and Kunin, and then Duclair, Barabanov, Couture. Hurdle is the same. So Hurdle with Zadina and Carpenter. What? That's the same. Oh no. Are they 11 and 7?
I could not tell you.
I think it's saying that because it's saying Hurdle line the same, and it looks like Zadina with Carpenter. So that makes me think 11 and 7. I don't know what Hurdle line the same actually means because
Hoffman and Zetterlund.
Okay, power play same. So Zetterlund, Couture, Hurdle, Eklund, Barabanov. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not all that interested in stacking the Sharks on a back-to-back. I don't know.
Yep.
I think I'm just good.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, if you want to play Fabian Zetterlund, be my guest. He's playing 20-plus minutes. He's killing penalties. He's on the power play. He's shooting 4,300, though. I don't know. You can probably do better, but you can certainly do worse. That is what I will say about that. Elsewhere, I guess I never really said it, but I'm not that interested in paying $9K for Panarin on a McDavid slate, in all honesty. So I think I'm just out on the Rangers.
Yeah, if you're completely dead, swap to Logan Couture at 6,100 because he's going to be negative percent owned.
Yeah.
I mean, the 10:30 game. I wouldn't keep in my solo Kreider.
Yep.
Oof. Okay. Yeah. I think I'll go with that though. I do think MYR 1 is the way to go. But I do think it's going to be a bit chalkier just with the price consideration and Panarin just not shooting as much as he once was.
I've been very excited for Couture to be back. So I will just say this. At some point in the rest of the year, a Couture, Hurdle, just those two guys only stack will win a slate. Like, those two guys are really, really good. They play off each other well in the power play. Like, the team's awful, but those guys will get there once this year. Will I be on it when it happens? Probably not. But, these two guys are really freaking good. So, it's there. If, we laugh, but 6K Logan Couture, it's honestly a fair price given his history, in my opinion. So, not good.
No, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying no one's going to play it. Yeah, but no one's going to I think that's probably right. Yeah.
Close it out with top stacks and guarantee goals.
All right. I'll take number 1, Ottawa 1, Sanderson, Giroux, Brady. And you're totally fine to throw Norris in with it. Like, he is shooting a ton. He's not on the first power play, but we know how he gets there. And at 4,800, I think he's very, like, people are going to play Rossi with Minnesota 1, and Norris is just a more prolific shooting Rossi at like 1,000 more. Never mind. It's really not that much similar. Just you go. I thought they were closer.
All right, give me Dallas 1. Just, we'll not quit this Robertson, Hintz, Johnston. Johnston is actually getting very unlucky with his stuff, and that's not that surprising given most of the sample he's played alongside Jamie Benn, who sucks. Now he's alongside good players who are good, so I expect Wyatt Johnston to be a heavy contributor to a GPP win somewhere in the future, and hopefully it is Tuesday.
All right. I'm going to say that, like, Kadri Uyghur is incredibly convincing to me, and I'll just throw Coronado in with it. 2,600 gives me a lot of savings. But yeah, I think the Kadri Uyghur thing is really, really, like, that's something that, as a 2-man, even if I don't end up needing that 2,600, I love that 2-man song.
Okay. I dig that. Yeah, let's go with a Minnesota stack. Let's go Kaprizov. Gosh, I'm not playing Brock Faber, so I can hear the people screaming at their cars or whatever as they're listening to this. I am not selecting Brock Faber. Let's just go Kaprizov, Rossi, and Zuccarello. And I think that's pretty good leverage of what I think will be some actual Washington power play one ownership, which, if it happens, cool. I don't get it. If it doesn't happen, whatever. You still get Kirill Kaprizov at 8,300 on the slate, where Panarin is 600 more, Kucherov's 1,500 more. I kind of think Kaprizov gets a little bit lost here.
Okay. No, I like that a lot. I mean, that's definitely, I feel like we've named all the other stacks I love, and obviously Edmonton too, but that just kind of feels like cheating. Last time out, I believe we were once again 1 for 3. You had Brady the Chuck. I don't remember if Kreider scored, to be honest, on Thursday night, but I feel like I would. I don't know. I know, because I knew Slavkovsky didn't, so I don't know if I ever looked back. But once again, I felt very confident in what we built, and it didn't get there. But tonight's a new night. So with all of that out of the way, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, let's go with Jonathan Marchessault, 6,400.
I was 100% confident you were going to pick him. I don't know why. I feel like I wish you would have asked, like, who do you think I'm going to pick? Because I would have, I knew it. I was so, that's just funny. I was literally sitting here looking at him. I will go on the other side of my stack, and I will take much. I'm going to decide between Kyver and Buchnevich. I'm going to decide by picking the other player in a similar price range and seeing what I have left. They're both actually like very good. No, Ovi and that's I don't care. I'm just going to do it. Ovi Buchnevich. It's close enough.
The Russian connection. Game late. Okay, sure. Actually, 2 game. Well, yeah. I guess they played a home and home. So the Washington St. Louis correlation from the weekend. So the historical game stack. There you go. Historical game stack.
They told each other how to do it. They're like, hey, this is how you do it now. And then perfect. Now I know. So for the next game, but not against you. Right. Perfect.
Well, hopefully they pass the memo along to one Mr. Sean Monahan, who, as I look, in his last 4 games, he has 7 assists. I don't know. I'm just as surprised as you are. But Monahan gets on the board with a goal in this spot. So take advantage of some Ottawa chalk that Montreal power play won. And Monahan actually being somewhat productive as of late gets the second guaranteed goal. So DJ, anything else you want to say before we close out the show?
No, follow us. They're right here if you're watching at DJ_Mitchell94. If once again, I said it last Tuesday, and I'm not going to say it again, actually, because I jinxed myself on every single bet that I've placed for a week. So we're hitting everything every single night from now on. We're not missing by 1 leg.
There you go.
Or by 1 point on a freaking same game parlay nonsense.
Yes. The podcast is at Morning Skate Pod. Yeah, there will be a TikTok up if you follow me at DFS Moods. I'll have a little clip from the show. Please send us a like, support us, however. And leave a review, leave a comment on YouTube if you're on YouTube. That's much appreciated. And subscribe to DJ and everything else, and that'll do it. So make sure you pop in the Discord by DMing one of us if you are not in there yet. And best of luck on Tuesday. So from Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good slate, everybody, and we will see ya.